Lose 22 pounds or you'll ruin your sister's wedding photos. My mother's voice sliced through the living room like a judge delivering a verdict. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth, staring at the pasta on my plate, which suddenly felt like undeniable proof of my failure. My name is Viviana. I'm 30 years old, and most of my life has been spent listening to my family analyze my body as if it were public property. My sister Camilla sat across from me, her engagement ring glinting in the sunlight streaming through the windows of our family estate in Savannah, Georgia. She didn't say a word, but the faint smile playing at her lips spoke volumes. This wasn't news to her. They had discussed it long before I arrived for Sunday dinner. My father, Carlos, cleared his throat, the familiar gesture he used whenever he wanted to give weight to one of my mother's comments. Your mom has a point, Viviana. This is Camilla's big day. The photos will last forever. I set my fork down slowly, deliberately. My heart hammered in my chest, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of practice had taught me that reacting only made things worse. Showing hurt signaled weakness, showing anger labeled me difficult. I see, I said quietly. Camilla finally spoke, her voice carrying that practiced tone of false concern she had perfected over the years. It's not that you look bad, Vivi. It's just everything has to be perfect. You understand, right? I've spent so much on this wedding. The photographer alone cost $6,500 to document a day where I was already being told I wasn't worthy of being seen as I was. My mother, Mariana, reached across the table and patted my hand. We're not trying to hurt your feelings, sweetheart. We're trying to help you. This could be a great opportunity for you to finally take your health seriously. There it was, the familiar frame that had defined my relationship with my family. Every critique was help. Every judgment was concern. Every moment they made me feel small was, in their eyes, care. I nodded slowly, letting them think I was absorbing their wisdom. But something inside me had shifted. The wedding is in 4 months. My mother continued, pulling out her phone. That gives you 16 weeks. Losing 22 pounds is absolutely doable if you commit. I found this great program. It's only $350 a month, and they send all your meals prepackaged. She showed me her phone screen, but my eyes barely registered it. My mind wandered, calculating a different set of numbers. 4 months of meal programs, weekly weigh-ins that would inevitably become family spectacles. 96 days of having every bite I took monitored and judged. I'll think about it, I said, rising from the table. Where are you going? My mother asked sharply. We haven't had dessert yet. I made that lemon cake you love. The one I love, not the one you let me eat without commentary, I thought. I need to get going, I said calmly. I have work early tomorrow. A lie. I worked remotely as a graphic designer with a flexible schedule, but it was an excuse they couldn't argue with. I kissed my mother's cheek, hugged my father briefly, and gave Camilla a tight smile. Congratulations again on the engagement. The drive back to my downtown Savannah studio took 20 minutes, though I barely noticed the route. My hands gripped the steering wheel as my mother's words echoed in my mind. Lose 22 pounds or you'll ruin your sister's wedding photos. As if my body in its current state was an act of sabotage. When I stepped into my apartment, I lingered in the doorway, surveying the sanctuary I had created for myself. Plants adorned every surface, artwork hung on the walls, books stacked on shelves. A cozy couch with throw pillows in colors I loved beckoned me. This was my refuge. The one place I could be entirely myself. I pulled out my phone and opened the Notes app. Instead of searching for diet programs, I typed 3 simple words. I deserve better. Then I sat on the couch, opened my laptop, and began researching something completely different. Not how to lose 22 pounds in 16 weeks, not how to shrink myself, but how to prioritize my own happiness. For once, the next morning, I woke to 17 messages in the family group chat, all wedding-related. My mother had sent a detailed timeline for the next 4 months, color-coded by priority. Weeks 1 through 4 were labeled Viviana's Transformation Phase 1. I scrolled through the messages while making coffee, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. Camilla sent photos of bridesmaid dresses, all pale pink. My mother responded with heart emojis. Carlos chimed in occasionally with thumbs-up reactions. Then came the message clearly aimed at me. Remember, everyone needs to look their best for the photos. This day is about creating memories that last forever. I set my phone down and focused on a simple breakfast ritual: scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit. Foods I enjoyed, made the way I liked them. No measuring, no tracking, no guilt, but my mind drifted back over the years. Family gatherings where my mother intercepted me before I reached the buffet. Beach vacations where Camilla wore bikinis while I received tips on flattering pieces. Holiday photos where I was always positioned behind others, easy to crop out if needed. When I was 16 and Camilla 11, I had already begun developing curves while she remained stick-thin. I remembered my mother pulling me aside at Camilla's birthday. "You need to watch what you eat, Viviana. I don't want you to struggle like I did." But Camilla never had to monitor a single bite. She ate freely and was celebrated for her naturally slender figure. College had been my escape. 4 years in Orlando, Florida, building a life free from constant monitoring. Friends who never commented on my food, partners who loved me as I was, a world where my body wasn't a problem. Yet every visit home pulled me back into the old pattern. The remarks would start within hours. "Have you tried that new diet? You have such a pretty face. If you just lost a little weight, you'd be perfect." The worst part, how differently they treated Camilla. My younger sister had become their ideal. Thin, blonde, conventionally pretty. She worked as a real estate agent, praised constantly for her looks and charm. I was the contrast, the cautionary tale. 3 years ago, I'd tried to talk to Camilla about it during Christmas. "Do you notice how differently they treat us?" I asked. "What do you mean?" She replied, genuinely confused. "The comments about my weight, the way Mom monitors what I eat, you don't get it." She laughed, actually laughed. "Vivi, you're just sensitive. If you didn't make such a big deal about your weight, they wouldn't have to tiptoe around it." My phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. "Viviana, I forwarded info about a gym near your apartment. They have a special new member rate. Thought it might help with your goals." My goals, as if losing weight had ever been mine rather than theirs. I typed, "Thanks for thinking of me." Polite and neutral, giving nothing to criticize, but I didn't open the gym info. Instead, I checked my savings account. $38,000. More than enough for what I was beginning to consider. I spent the day on client projects, designing logos and websites for people who valued my creativity, not my dress size. That evening, I strolled through my Savannah neighborhood. Spring in the historic district was beautiful, streets lined with blooming azaleas. Before bed, I returned to my laptop, continuing the research I had started. Wellness retreats, not weight loss camps, but true retreats centered on rest, renewal, and self-care. I found one that made my heart race. Tranquil Bay Retreat, a private island off the Florida coast. 5 days of massages, meditation, yoga, gourmet healthy meals, and complete disconnection. Guests were encouraged to leave phones behind. The available dates included Camilla's wedding weekend. Cost $5,200. My cursor hovered over the booking page. Miss my sister's wedding. Spend thousands on myself. Choose my own peace over family expectations. Insane but irresistible. I thought about walking down that aisle, judged and hidden in photos, the day spent feeling managed and small. Then clarity struck. I clicked book, Entered my credit card. My hands didn't shake. For the first time in days, I felt calm. Confirmation email. Tranquil Bay Retreat. Exact dates of Camilla's wedding. Non-refundable. I saved the email, closed my laptop, and went to bed. I'd tell them eventually, but not yet. For now, this choice was mine alone, a secret that made me smile in the dark. The next 8 weeks passed in a strange dual existence. On the surface, I played along. I replied to my mother's texts about diet programs with vague responses. I'm working on it, I'll keep that in mind. I attended the bridesmaid dress fitting, silent as the seamstress took measurements while Mariana hovered, lips pressed tight. Privately, I prepared for something entirely different. I immersed myself in work, taking extra projects. The added income wasn't necessary for the retreat, already paid, but it kept me from second, guessing my choice. I designed websites for a bakery, a yoga studio, and a nonprofit promoting body positivity. That last project felt deeply meaningful. My apartment became a true sanctuary. I stopped attending every Sunday dinner at my parents' house, citing work deadlines. The less time I spent with them, the clearer the patterns became. 6 weeks before the wedding, Camilla called, sending you the final wedding timeline. Hair and makeup start at 8:00 a.m. So you'll need to be at Mom and Dad's by 7:30. Okay, I said neutrally. Mom says you've been doing so well with the weight loss. Camilla continued. She's proud of you for taking it seriously. I hadn't lost a pound, hadn't tried, hadn't changed anything, but my mother had decided what Camilla needed to hear. That's nice, I replied. I know I can be intense about planning, but it's just because I want everything perfect, Camilla said. Sure, I said, nothing else to add. After hanging up, I thought of the wedding day timeline. 7:30 a.m. Arrival, all-day photos, ceremony at 4 p.m. Reception until 10 p.m. 17 and a half hours of performing the good sister, successfully shrinking myself into acceptability. Instead, I would check into Tranquil Bay Retreat at noon, sip herbal tea, and receive a welcome packet. The contrast made me laugh out loud. The other bridesmaids were Camilla's friends from college and work, women I barely knew. They all resembled her, slender, polished, perfectly put together. They talked about workout routines, juice cleanses, photographers, and makeup artists. I smiled, nodded, and said very little. At one point, my mother leaned close and whispered, "You're doing so well, sweetheart. I can tell you've lost weight. Your face looks slimmer." My face hadn't changed, but she saw what she wanted to see. "Thanks," I said, taking a sip of water. 3 weeks before the wedding, Camilla sent a message to the bridesmaids group chat. "Remember, we're all representing me in the photos, so make sure you look your absolute best. And please, no one gain any weight before the wedding. The dresses were fitted specifically for each of you." I stared at that message for a long moment. No one gain any weight, as if our bodies were decorations arranged for her special day. The other bridesmaids replied with laughing emojis and reassurances. I sent nothing. 1 week before the wedding, my mother called. "Viviana, I need you to come by this Sunday. We're having the final fitting for the dresses." "I can't this Sunday," I said. "I have a work deadline." "This is more important than work," she said sharply. "It's your sister's wedding. The dress fit fine at the last fitting. I'm sure it's fine," I replied. A long pause. "Have you been following the program we discussed? You sound defensive." "I'm not defensive, I'm just busy." Another pause. "Viviana, if you've gained weight, we need to know now so adjustments can be made." I closed my eyes. "The dress fits. I'll see you at the wedding." I hung up before she could respond. That night, I opened the confirmation email for Tranquil Bay Retreat and reread the details. Check-in was noon on Friday. Camilla's wedding ceremony, Saturday at 4 p.m. I'd be unreachable on a private island, my phone locked away, my only responsibility to breathe and exist. I also drafted an email to my family for Friday morning. I won't be attending the wedding. I've made other plans. Wishing you a beautiful day. No explanation, no justification, no apology. I saved it as a draft and felt a weight lift. 3 days before the wedding, Camilla sent individual texts to all bridesmaids with instructions. Mine read, "So glad you took Mom's advice seriously. You'll look great in the photos." I didn't respond. The night before leaving for Tranquil Bay Retreat, I packed a small bag, comfortable clothes, a book, a journal. I set an alarm for 6:00 a.m., planning to be on the road before any family members might show up. I also finalized the email and scheduled it to send at 8:00 a.m., well after I'd be on my way. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt no anxiety, no guilt, no second thoughts. Only a deep, peaceful certainty that I was finally putting myself first. Tomorrow, my family would expect me to play my role. Instead, I would choose myself, and whatever consequences came, I was ready. I deserved better than spending my sister's wedding day as an apology in human form. I deserved peace, respect, and the freedom to exist in my body without shame. And I was about to claim exactly that. Friday morning arrived, sunlight streaming through my bedroom window. I woke before my alarm, feeling a clarity I hadn't experienced in months. While my family still slept, expecting me to be preparing for the wedding, I loaded my car and drove out of Savannah. The coastal highway stretched ahead, each mile lightening me further. 2 hours into the drive, I stopped at a small cafe for coffee. When the barista handed me a blueberry muffin, I ordered without hesitation. I realized I hadn't counted calories or felt guilty in weeks. My phone stayed silent until 8:00 a.m., then it exploded. I was crossing a bridge when the first call came through, Mariana. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, she called again, then Camilla, then Carlos. The calls were relentless, buzzing nonstop. I imagined the scheduled email hitting their inboxes, my mother expecting confirmations, instead finding my simple declaration of absence. I pictured Camilla's face, the frantic family meeting, the wave of urgent calls. A text from my mother lit up my screen. "This is not funny. Call me immediately." Then Camilla, "Are you serious right now, today? You're doing this today, Carlos, very disappointed? Call your mother." I switched my phone to silent and kept driving. The texts continued, unread, glimpsed only at red lights. Words like selfish, ungrateful, ruining everything scrolled by. Camilla sent 14 messages in 10 minutes, a progression from anger to bargaining to threats. An hour from my destination, I pulled over at a rest stop. I sat in my car and finally read the messages. Mariana's paragraphs detailed obligations, disappointment, and the money spent. She listed every favor, every sacrifice, every reason I supposedly owed my presence. "After raising you, supporting you, paying for your education, this is how you repay us. By abandoning your sister." On the most important day of her life, Camilla's messages were more direct. "I knew you were jealous, but I didn't think you'd actually sabotage my wedding. This is beyond petty. This is pathetic." Another, "Mom said you've been lying about losing weight. I defended you, but you didn't try, did you? You never cared." Another, "You're not just hurting me. You're hurting the whole family. Everyone will ask where you are." What am I supposed to say? That my sister is so selfish she couldn't bother showing up? Carlos's messages were formal. "Your mother is very upset. We need to discuss this immediately. This behavior is unacceptable and will have consequences." I sat there waiting for the guilt to crush me, the familiar spiral of shame, the desperate urge to fix things. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt a strange calm. Everything they'd written proved exactly why I needed to leave. Not one message asked if I was okay. Not one questioned why I made this choice. Every word focused on their disappointment, inconvenience, and feelings. I typed a single response: "I'm safe, I'm taking care of myself, please enjoy the wedding." Then I turned off my phone completely and resumed driving. The final hour took me through small coastal towns, eventually reaching a private causeway. Tranquil Bay Retreat lay on a barrier island, accessible only by appointment. At the gatehouse I gave my name, and the guard checked his list before waving me through. Through the palm trees the retreat appeared like something from a dream. White buildings with blue shutters connected by crushed gel pathways, gardens of native plants, the distant sound of waves. I parked and walked to the main building, bag over my shoulder. The lobby was cool and quiet, decorated in soft blues and greens, large windows overlooking the ocean. A woman about my age approached, smiling warmly. "Viviana?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "Welcome to Tranquil Bay Retreat. I'm Jennifer. We're so glad you're here." She didn't comment on my body. She didn't suggest I'd made the right choice by coming to work on myself. 4 weeks before the wedding, my mother hosted a bridesmaids' lunch at the Riverside Club. I attended in a simple dress, enduring 2 hours of wedding chatter while picking at an overpriced salad. Jennifer didn't frame the retreat as a weight loss program. She welcomed me exactly as I was. She handed me a folder with my schedule: morning yoga, meditation sessions, massages, healthy meals, and free time to walk the beach, read, or simply exist without obligation. "We ask that you turn in your phone and other devices," Jennifer explained. "Complete disconnection allows for deeper relaxation. You'll get everything back at checkout on Tuesday." I handed over my phone without hesitation. She locked it in a small safe and gave me a key whenever I was ready to reconnect. But I wasn't. I might never be. Jennifer walked me to my cottage, a small building with a private porch facing the ocean. Inside there was a comfortable bed, a bathroom with a deep tub, and a cozy sitting area stocked with books and art supplies. "Lunch is at 1:00 p.m., Jennifer said. "If you'd like something lighter now, I can bring tea and fruit." "That would be wonderful," I said. After she left, I stood on the porch looking out at the Atlantic. Somewhere several hours south, my family was spiraling. Camilla was probably crying. My mother was probably calling everyone to complain. My father was likely calculating how to spin my absence. And I was here, breathing salt air, feeling the sun on my face, existing in my body without apology. A staff member arrived with herbal tea and fresh fruit. I ate slowly, tasting each bite, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. While Camilla walked down the aisle, I would be in a yoga class. While the photographer arranged the bridal party, I would be getting a massage. While my family sat at the reception, I would watch the sunset from the beach. For the first time in my life, I wouldn't shrink myself to fit someone else's idea of perfection. The afternoon passed in a gentle blur. I unpacked, took a long bath, wrapped myself in a plush robe, and walked to lunch in the open-air dining pavilion. The breeze carried the scent of salt and flowers, and the space was calm, reflective. Lunch was beautifully prepared. Grilled fish, quinoa salad, roasted vegetables, fresh fruit, served on handmade pottery. I ate slowly, savoring nourishment without judgment. A woman at the next table smiled. "First time here?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "Third visit for me, every year for my birthday. Best gift I've ever given myself, learning to prioritize my own peace." She had silver hair and kind eyes, probably in her 50s. We chatted briefly, no questions about why I was here. Everyone had their reasons, they were private, respected. After lunch, I attended a meditation session in a garden pavilion. The instructor guided us through breathing and body awareness exercises. At one point, she said something that made me tear up. Your body is not a problem to solve. It's a home to inhabit with kindness. The evening brought a quiet dinner, followed by a sunset walk. The sky blazed orange and pink, waves crashing in rhythm with my heartbeat. Back at my cottage, a lavender sachet awaited on the pillow. I slept deeply, the kind of sleep that comes from feeling completely safe. Saturday morning, Camilla's wedding day, I woke naturally. The sunrise filled my cottage with gold light. I lay in bed for a while, imagining Charleston. My mother frantic, hair and makeup artists rushing. Camilla probably crying over my absence. My empty seat would stand out, the bridal party photos slightly asymmetrical. I felt no urge to fix any of it. I dressed comfortably and went to morning yoga on the ocean deck. 90 minutes of poses made my body feel capable and strong. The instructor offered modifications without judgment, encouraging us to honor our needs. Breakfast followed, fresh smoothies, ripe fruit, yogurt with honey, homemade granola. I ate alone, savoring every bite without thinking about calories. At 11:00 a.m., I had a massage. The therapist worked gently, easing tension from my shoulders and back. "You're holding a lot of stress here," she murmured. "Try to let it go just for now." I closed my eyes and released everything. Camilla's disappointment, my mother's anger, my father's disapproval, family judgment. Let them tell whatever story they wanted. I was here, breathing, existing, and finally choosing myself. Lunch was on the porch, fresh salad and grilled shrimp, ocean waves in view. Back in Charleston, the wedding party would be posing for photos, perfectly styled, unaware I wasn't there. At 2:00 p.m., I read on the beach watching the waves. Guests would be arriving at the venue asking, "Where's Viviana?" The answer they imagined. I'd abandoned Camilla, proven selfish, and lived up to their expectations of me. At 4:00 p.m., while Camilla walked down the aisle, I had an aromatherapy session. Lavender and eucalyptus filled the room. I released 33 years of trying to earn love by shrinking myself. I released the belief that my worth depended on a dress size. I released the exhausting performance of being the acceptable daughter and manageable sister. By 5:00 p.m., the ceremony ended, photos taken, cocktail hour underway. My absence was a topic of whispered speculation, some defending me, most accepting whatever story my mother had crafted. I emerged from the session feeling lighter than air. Dinner was a celebration of fresh local ingredients, seafood, vegetables, bread baked on site. I sat with the woman from lunch and another guest, a man who'd come after a heart attack. "Life's too short to spend it miserable," he said. "Took me 58 years to figure that out." We toasted to second chances. After dinner, I walked the beach alone under a nearly full moon. Freedom washed over me. Sunday, my last morning, arrived with gentle waves and birdsong. I woke rested, no alarm, no obligations, no performance required. My phone remained locked in the safe, full of messages I wasn't ready to read. The wedding was over. My family survived without me. I survived my own rebellion. After yoga and breakfast, I walked the grounds. 20 acres of gardens, meditation spaces, quiet corners. I sat on a bench overlooking the ocean, reflecting on everything that had led me here. The patterns with my parents and Camilla were clear now. My mother's love conditional, Bridget the favored child, my efforts never enough. Years of trying to explain myself had failed. They weren't willing to see me as anything other than a problem. Sitting there, I finally released the obligation to keep trying. Monday was peaceful. Yoga, meditation, massages, mindful movement workshops, self-compassion exercises, reading, napping, sunsets. My family didn't exist in my mind. Tuesday morning, final day, I packed, said goodbye to Jennifer, and collected my phone. "Remember, whatever is waiting for you, you choose how to respond," she said. "You always have a choice." I sat in my car, not turning on the phone, reflecting on the retreat. It had reminded me who I was outside my family's expectations. Finally, I powered it on. Hundreds of notifications, missed calls, texts, voicemails, emails. My mother's messages grew frantic, then angry, then guilt. Tripping. Camilla's followed. Anger, desperation, icy rage. Sunday night, "I will never forgive you, you're dead to me. My father," 3 variations of "call your mother." Other family members sent concerned messages. I deleted voicemails after the first 2, then an unexpected email from Camilla, Sunday afternoon, subject line blank. Inside, a single photograph, the formal bridal party photo. Camilla stood center in her dress, surrounded by 4 bridesmaids in pale pink. On the end, digitally edited, was me. A thinner version, my face on someone else's body. Lighting slightly off, proportions imperfect. One sentence in the email, "This is what we had to do because of you." I stared at it, realizing this was exactly what they wanted all along. Not me, but a manipulated version. They'd tried to Photoshop me in real life, and when I refused, they did it digitally. I saved the photo not as hurt, but as proof of what I'd escaped. I started the drive back to Charleston clear, headed, I wouldn't apologize, I wouldn't explain, I wouldn't accept their narrative. I chose myself, and I'd do it again. Halfway home, I stopped for coffee, listening to my mother's Sunday voicemail. "Viviana, I don't know what you think you're accomplishing, but you've hurt your sister. The wedding was beautiful despite you. We had to field questions all day. I told people you had a work emergency. You're welcome for covering for your selfishness. When you stop this childish behavior, call me. Maybe I'll answer." I deleted it, then listened to another, from Camilla, Saturday night. I deleted Bridget's text and then opened my contacts to call Aunt Diane, my mother's younger sister, someone I'd always felt more comfortable with. "Ellaner," she answered on the second ring. "Hi, Aunt Diane. Are you all right? Your mother said I disappeared and wouldn't answer my phone." "I'm fine. I was at a wellness retreat. I turned my phone off for a few days." A pause, then gently, "The weekend of Bridget's wedding, do you want to talk about it?" And suddenly I did. Sitting in the parking lot, I told her everything. The 20-pound demand, the constant monitoring, Bridget's instructions to the photographer, the way my body had been treated as a problem to solve. Diane listened without interrupting. "I'm not surprised," she said. "Your mother has always been difficult about weight and appearance. She treated me the same way when we were younger. I was heavier than her, and she never let me forget it. She passed some of those attitudes to Bridget." I told her about the photoshopped bridal party image. "Jesus," Diane breathed. "Ellaner, that's twisted." "I know," I said. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet, but I'm not apologizing. I'm not pretending I was wrong to choose myself." "Good," Diane said firmly. "You weren't wrong. What they did was cruel. You had every right to protect yourself." We talked for another 20 minutes. Diane told me how tense the wedding had been, how Bridget had cried through most of the reception, and how several relatives had expressed private concern about my absence. Julia, my cousin, had asked if I was sick. Diane said to tell her I was fine, and I did. When I arrived at my Charleston apartment that afternoon, walking through my door felt like coming home to myself. I unpacked, showered, made a real dinner, and opened social media. Bridget had posted wedding photos, of course, her curated gallery of perfection. The edited photo of me smiling at the end of the line was there. I screenshot it and saved it. Then I drafted my own post. "This is me at a wellness retreat where I spent my sister's wedding weekend." I chose myself, after being told I needed to lose 20 pounds or I'd ruin the photos. I decided my peace was worth more than performing for people who see my body as a problem. I'd do it again. I attached a photo from Serenity Shores of me smiling at sunset, genuine and unfiltered. I saved it as a draft. Writing it out felt powerful, a claim on my narrative before anyone else could define it. That night, I slept peacefully in my own bed, completely unbothered by the messages piling up on my phone. Wednesday morning, my mother had called 4 times before 8:00 a.m. I let them go to voicemail and had breakfast instead. Around 9, she called again, ice in her voice. "Ellaner, we need to talk about your behavior this past weekend." "Okay," I said calmly. "Bridget is devastated. She spent months planning that wedding, and you couldn't be bothered to show up. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? I told them you had a family emergency. You're welcome." I took a sip of coffee. "I didn't ask you to lie for me. What was I supposed to say? That I threw a tantrum because my feelings were hurt? You could have told them the truth. You demanded I lose 22 pounds for photos, and I chose not to participate." Silence. "That's not what happened. We suggested healthy changes. We were trying to help." "You told me I'd ruin the photos if I didn't lose weight. Those were your exact words. You're twisting things. You always do this, making yourself the victim when people are trying to support you." I could see the old pattern trying to reassert itself, the gaslighting, the revision of history, but I'd had 5 days of clarity. "Mom, I'm not going to argue. I know what was said and how it made me feel. I chose to protect myself rather than spend the weekend feeling terrible at my sister's wedding." "Protect yourself from your own family? That's ridiculous." "Is it? You photoshopped me into the bridal photo. A thinner version, because even in my absence, you couldn't accept me as I actually am." Another pause. Bridget needed a complete bridal party for photos. That was important. Then she should have accepted the bridal party she actually had, not the version she wished for. "I don't know who you think you are talking to me like this. I'm someone who deserves respect, even from my mother. If you want respect, you need to act respectably. What you did was selfish and cruel. Until you apologize to your sister, we have nothing to discuss." "I'm not apologizing. I didn't do anything wrong." "Then I guess we're done here." She hung up. I set my phone down, hands shaking, not from fear, but from the energy of finally standing my ground. An hour later, Bridget called. I almost didn't answer, but knew we'd eventually have this conversation. "Hi, Bridget." "Don't hi, Bridget me. Do you know what you put me through? I imagine it was difficult having your wedding not go exactly as planned." "Difficult? It was a nightmare. Everyone asked about you. The photos look weird with the uneven number. Mom had to make up a story." "I'm sorry your photos didn't turn out the way you wanted. That's it. That's your apology." "I'm not apologizing for missing the wedding. I'm sympathizing that you're disappointed." "You're unbelievable. You ruined the most important day of my life because you couldn't handle constructive feedback." "It wasn't constructive feedback. It was a demand that I change my body to meet your aesthetic. I chose not to. So, you punished me for it on my wedding day." "I didn't punish you. I chose myself. There's a difference." "No, there isn't. You knew what missing the wedding would do. You did it anyway." "Bridget, I spent 5 days at a wellness retreat taking care of my mental health. I'm sorry that my choice felt like an attack, but that says more about your expectations than my intentions. You expected me to show up, that's basic. You expected me to show up after you told me to lose weight, after instructing the photographer to hide me, after treating my body as a problem. I'm your sister, and I was supposed to be loved as I am." We both had expectations and disappointments. She hung up. I sat on my couch, emotionally exhausted but lighter than I'd ever felt. I had offered boundaries, self-respect, and truth instead of contrition. That afternoon, cousin Julia called. I heard you went to a spa retreat instead of the wedding. I explained enough. She listened. That's messed up, Ellaner. I'm sorry they did that to you. That evening, I published my post with the sunset photo. Within an hour, friends and strangers offered support. Family reactions came next. Some were furious, some understanding. My phone exploded, but I was ready. The post went viral, thousands shared and commented. People reached out asking for the full story. I spoke to media carefully, protecting identities, discussing family dynamics, body autonomy, and the difference between support and control. Over the next weeks, support poured in. Aunt Diane and several cousins aligned publicly with my choice. Others shared their own stories of generational criticism and conditional approval. My family's narrative couldn't dominate anymore. 3 weeks after the wedding, a handwritten letter arrived from Bridget. No apology. A detailed recounting of how I'd hurt her ended with, "Sisters are supposed to support each other, but you chose a spa day over me. I don't think I can forgive that, maybe someday, but not now." I put it in a drawer. I focused on my life, projects, work with body, positive communities, returning to Serenity Shores. Slowly, my life transformed: peace, self-respect, and freedom from the expectation of approval. 6 months after the wedding, I spoke at a conference on body autonomy. Standing there, sharing my story with 280 people, I realized what I'd truly lost and gained. I lost the need to shrink myself to earn love. I gained self-respect, peace, and certainty that I deserved better. My mother and Bridget faced consequences in their own circles. The perfect wedding day, perfect photos, and a compliant sister. They didn't get it. Instead, they got reality. Control has limits. People can only be pushed so far before they choose themselves. Looking back, my revenge wasn't leaving for Serenity Shores. It was building a life full of peace and self-love. My revenge was refusing to be small, taking up space, living unapologetically. The ocean breeze had whispered a truth I'd long feared to hear. I was enough, exactly as I was. And once I believed it, nothing they said or did could touch me. That was the greatest revenge of all.